Shalom, ambassadors. The President of the United States in the 1930s and 40s, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had a series of some 50 chats that he had over the radio to the American people, and he called them the fireside chats. He talked about banking, and he talked about the recession, and he talked about World War II. It was his way of communicating directly with the people. And we decided at Livnot we're going to have a series of Firestone chats. And this first chat that I'd like to have with you has to do with saying thank you. Thank you to all of you for helping make successful one of the most incredible campaigns that we've ever heard of, and certainly at Livnot. It is an incredible show of gratitude, and it is also incredibly helpful in planning the next steps of Livnot that will hopefully take us also to another 40 years after passing the first 40 years just now. And so our way of saying thank you is to offer you a series of chats, and you can also ask for certain subjects to be dealt with. But today, I would like to talk about the very idea of gratitude within a Jewish context. And I'll start with a story, of course. I went to visit many years ago my parents in Kansas City. And when the visit was over and I was on my way back to Israel, I got on a plane with a bunch of Kansas Cityans, and we went east. I don't remember where it was to, Chicago or Atlanta, on the way to New York to go back to Israel. And as we reached our altitude and we could take off our seatbelts, and I heard an announcement over the speakers, "Whoever ordered the kosher meal, please let the stewardess know." And everybody's turning around to see who's the guy who ordered the kosher meal. So of course I also looked around to see who that would be, and then quickly pulled the little button, hoping that the stewardess would come over and we could continue in whispers. But she did come over and she said, "So you ordered the kosher meal. How nice." Well, it was too late. The cat was out of the bag, and everybody knew that I was Jewish. But that's okay. That's what you got to deal with. And the woman next to me, who was sitting in the window seat, before I started eating, because I didn't really want to start before everybody else got their food. It didn't look good. And she said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question? I'm asking out of respect. What does kosher mean? Does it mean that your rabbi blessed the food?" And I tried to explain the Jewish dietary laws. It has to do how the things were grown, and certain fruits and vegetables, and the way it was prepared, and the separation of meat and milk. If it happens to be animals, then it would have to be a certain kind of animal, and couldn't be, for instance, from a pig. And it depends on how that animal was slaughtered in a special way. And she said, "Thank you." And then she said, "I have another question. I'm only asking out of respect. You're the first Jewish person I've ever met. And I really want to know, what does Jew mean? Where's that name from? What does it mean that you're Jews? That you're Jewish? What does that come from? I mean, I know Christian is because I'm connected to Christ. I get it. But what is Jew?" So I said, "It's a fine question, really. And maybe more Jews should ask that question. Where does that name come from?" And it goes back to a biblical story, back to Genesis. In the book of Genesis, one of our matriarchs was Leah. And she was married to Jacob, who had 4 wives. And there's a tradition, it's just a tradition, it's not written in the source itself in Genesis, but there was a tradition that says that it was known that there would be 12 tribes, and if there were 4 wives, then each one would have 3 children. And after Leah had her 3rd child, she realized that now it was time for the others to have their children. And something miraculous happened, and she had a 4th child. And it was a surprise, and she was extra thankful. And so she decided to call the child Thank You. And the way she did that in Hebrew was Yehudah. He will give thanks. He will say Todah. The word Todah is the root word of Yehudah. It's the same basic idea of giving thanks. And afterwards, Judah became, or Yehudah became, one of the leaders of the 12 tribes, got a very big tract of land. It was very central and near Jerusalem. And afterwards, the area of the land of Israel was called Judea. And for a number of reasons in various languages that this went through, in the end, from Judea, from Judah, we got to Jew, or Jewish. But what it really means is that Jews are thankful, that they're the thank you people. A Jew is a thank youer, someone who is always in a state of gratitude. Unfortunately, because we're far away from Hebrew, and we don't pick it up because we use even in Israel, we use the word so often, we don't think about the etymology of it. But actually, our name is our essence. And that has a lot to do with the way we think and our literature and many of our traditions. One of them, for instance, is the first thing that a Jewish person traditionally does upon waking in the morning. Upon waking in the morning and realizing that you're still alive, the tradition is to start out by saying Modeh Ani, or Moda Ani. Thankful am I. Why not I am thankful? It's so much more easier. Ani Modeh, Ani Moda. Because if you think about it, starting your day off with the word I, it's a little egocentric. But if you start the day off with Todah, Modeh Ani, thankful am I, there's a deep message there. We're important, but we don't start off the day with me. We start off the day with thank you. Another interesting story, there was a young man who once came to Livnot many years ago, and he told me, I have a glass eye. I lost my eye to cancer, but I can do everything. I can hike, I can work. It was an amazing Chevre. And after a while, didn't even notice that the person had a glass eye. And he told me that he wasn't out of the woods, and that the doctor said there still is a chance that the cancer could spread to the other eye. And he told me how in the morning, every morning, when he wakes up, he opens his good eye very slowly to make sure that he can see. And when he does, he's so thankful. I said, that's amazing. That's Modeh Ani. He hadn't heard of Modeh Ani. And I thought, wow, what an incredible spiritual giant who came to this Jewish tradition on his own. It just came out of his heart. He was so thankful for his eye. Afterwards, when he went back, he told me that the doctors told him that for now, he was out of the woods and there was no danger to his eye at the time. It's an amazing story. And how can we open our eyes in the morning and not be thankful that we have two of them? A very tough story, but a very beautiful one. And the person was very Jewish because the person was very, very thankful and full of gratitude. And it's also in many of our stories. For instance, the story of the plagues in Egypt, right? The very first plague was blood. And in many of the plagues, God would tell Moses, do this, stretch out your staff, start this plague. And then Pharaoh would say, no, I'll let you go, just get rid of the plague. And Moses would tell God, it's okay, he's going to let us go, just get rid of the plague. And then Hashem would get rid of the plague, and then Pharaoh's heart would be hardened, and we didn't get to go in the end. But interestingly enough, in the text, Hashem says to Moses, tell Aaron to turn the water into blood. And all the Nile and all the water all over Egypt turned into blood. And according to the story that we tell, it's not in the text, it's a story that our sages tell, the reason that Aaron was the one who started the plague and not Moses is because Moses was full of gratitude to the Nile because it saved his life when he was a baby and he was put in a basket and his mother put him to float in the water until he was picked up by Pharaoh's daughter. How could Moses, as it were, spit into the well that he's drinking from, right? Be so full of a lack of gratitude that he would actually harm the very Nile that saved him. It's a beautiful idea. And it's an interesting idea. What are our Niles? What are the things that we say that saved us, that we're grateful for, that will never hurt? We'll never not be grateful for that. It's a way of reading yourself into the Torah. And it's interesting how every person comes up with a different kind of Moses-Nile relationship because of things that happened to them as they were growing up and even when they were older. And of course, if we're already talking about the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the Passover Seder itself, we sing a song, Dayenu. It's a very, very popular song, Dayenu, Dayenu. That's usually the tune that's used in America and in some places in Israel. And every ethnic group has a different tradition of how they sing and what they do during Dayenu. But the idea of Dayenu, which means it would have been enough, is very simple. Hashem, even if you just took us out of Egypt, that we didn't even get through all the trials and tribulations afterwards, it would have been enough. Thank you just for that. It's a way of saying thank you. It's not as though we didn't want to get to the land of Israel. Of course we did. And afterwards, Hashem, even if you got us through the sea and split it in two, but you didn't give us dry land to walk on, it would have been enough. But no, you gave us dry land to walk on after you split the sea. So thank you so much. It's a beautiful idea. Thank you for helping us, because it could have been so much worse. And think about the pandemic, how we will be thankful when this is all over. We'll be able to hug people again. We'll be able to meet with people again. We'll be able to gather together for happy things and sad things. Life will go back to normal. People's jobs hopefully will return to them. The skies will be open. People will be able to travel the world and come to Israel, of course. And hopefully, one of the good things that will happen from all this, and the many bad things that have happened, is that we'll be grateful afterwards for the things that we don't have now. The thread that connects all of the subjects that I talked about, from that man's eye to Egypt and Moses not being able to hit the Nile and the pandemic and the Dayenu, is that they're all gratitude for negative reasons, right? Talk to a Holocaust survivor who's so thankful for just being alive. They're not going to complain because they've been through so much. But how sad is that we have to go through tough things in order to say thank you? And this is what is special about the campaign and the things that you folks as ambassadors did. You were grateful and you said thank you to Livnot and to the Jewish people, but not after something traumatic happened. You did it because it was the right thing to do and you really felt gratitude. That's what's amazing. Because most of the time, we are thankful. After bad things happen, we're thankful for there not being any bad. But here, there was nothing bad. It was just out of the goodness of your hearts. And for that, we at Livnot want to say to you, thankful are we. Now, the truth is, according to the way the folks at Livnot look at it, the money wasn't for Livnot, it's for the Jewish people. And it is very special and has to be cared for with great dedication, almost holiness. This belongs to the Jewish people. And so, really, to say thankful are we, it's not really right, because the Jewish people want to say thank you, should be saying thank you to you, and the future Chevre one day will, hopefully, say thank you to you. So, thankful are they. But the truth is, We're all in this together, really. So thankful we all are to each other, with each other, with the entire Jewish people, the entire world. We want to say to you, and we'll keep on saying it, one very important word, maybe the most important word that all Jews should use very often. Todah.